It is difficult to talk about Columbus today without talking about the Columbus of yesteryear and how one man's dedication to changing the cultural identity of the city transformed Columbus from a struggling small town to a global Mecca of architectural achievement.
Irwin Miller is a Columbus native. He was born and raised here, spent his entire life here for that matter. He, of course, had the resources to travel and go all over the world, but he always came back to Columbus. I think, that there was an attachment to this community that influenced a lot of decisions that he made and things that really developed in Columbus in later years. I think he had an appreciation for things that he was able to acquire through his own personal wealth. And I think he saw this as something that could be shared with others in the community in which he lived.
A lover of great art and architecture, J. Irwin Miller was also a shrewd businessman. When Miller became general manager of Cummins Engine Company in 1934, the company was struggling to survive. Within 3 years, it had turned its first profit since it started. But Miller knew that if Cummins was going to survive after World War II in a peacetime economy, he needed to put Cummins on a global path forward, one that started in his own backyard.
Yeah, Columbus was really a very typical small southern Indiana town. It was not a very pleasant place to live, both aesthetically and from the perspective of human relations. It was mostly white, and it was very difficult for blacks to integrate into the community. You could almost say Columbus was a racist town. And I think he grew up in that kind of an atmosphere and saw what this community had developed into over the years. And I think that he, along with some other key figures in the community, thought that we have to do something to make a difference. And he could do some things that others could not do, which could bring about some dramatic changes, and he did.
Miller used Cummins' economic standing in the community to persuade local landlords to rent to minorities, and would only do business with companies that exhibited the same commitment to diversity and ethical values.
While people picture him as a philanthropist, I think you also have to consider he was also a businessman. I think he probably wanted to have Columbus develop the way it would, that he also saw it as a way to improve the outlook for the businesses which his family was involved with. One of the things that was a top priority in his own mind was schools. That I think at the time, late 50s or so, that it had been more than a half century before a new school building had been erected. And the community, I think, funding this, took the lowest price possible as the best approach to education. And they basically put up a bunch of prefab buildings. He looked at these and I think he felt that we had to have something better than this. Not just for the community itself, but for the young families that he hoped to bring to Columbus. He set forth with this idea that to attract these people, we have to have a community that is something they want to live in and stay in, not use as a way station for another point in their career.
In 1957, Miller launched the Cummins Foundation, funneling large portions of Cummins' profits back into the community. If a school system chose an architect from a list provided by the foundation would pay that architect's fees. Soon, schools were being built across Columbus designed by such architectural greats as Richard Mayer and Harry Weiss. The building boom spread, with over 60 buildings constructed between the 1960s and 1970s.
Cummins quickly became a showcase of architecture. I think that what that did was not only to show what Cummins could do, but it also served as an inspiration to other people in the community that, hey, we can do this too. Others saw the vision that he had and recognized the value of that vision in their own lives. And I think we still see it today.
As the years passed, other buildings went up around Columbus, inspired by the path set forth by the Cummins Foundation. The stunning Bartholomew County Library by I.M. Pei, the Republic newspaper building designed by Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill, churches designed by the Saarinen family, even a Kevin Roche post office and a Caesar Paley shopping center. The city transformed, and with it, so too did the population, doubling in size in only 2 decades. Today, Columbus is considered a global community, diverse in ethnicities, and home to one of the best showplaces of modern architecture in the world.
That's one of the marvelous transformations that's taken place. And Columbus has changed, but it's also stayed the same. You know, when you live amongst some things, they tend to become a part of you, whereas people who come in and see things for the first time see something marvelous. And I think that's evidence of the influence, that, you know, that you take the architecture for granted, but then it belongs to you. And I think Mr. Miller gave that to us.